Hey guys, Nicole here with Obscure Reptiles and Caging, and today we're going to be telling you what it's like to be a reptile breeder and what a normal day looks like here. So let's get started. Hey guys, so today I'm going to be walking you through one of my normal mornings. Since I do have a normal daytime job, I have to get up pretty darn early to be able to walk through and go through everything. Pretty much every day is going to be completely different based on if we have any baby Ackie Monitors, baby bearded dragons, baby ball pythons, if we have to feed the bugs, if it's cleaning day. But this is a general day. It took somewhere around 45 minutes just for my morning, and then I also go back up again and check later in the day. But what you're about to see is what our general morning looks like. So I start right around 4:30 in the morning, and today we had to feed all of the bugs. If you're going to keep things like bearded dragons, you're going to have insects. I hate bugs, but you have to have them. So you want to make sure they're well cared for, just like every other animal. I just cut up something really simple for them. We have superworms and dubias, so we just cut those up. As soon as I come upstairs, I actually check on, normally the baby Ackies are there first. We've got some holdbacks. I check on them, make sure they're doing good. Luckily, they've actually been able to upgrade to a PVC cage, so we'll show you guys that. We'll probably do a video on it. But they're all upgraded now, but we check on them. I check on all of the bearded dragons as they're next. I actually bring up some shrimp. That's actually going to be a treat. We only give that to them like once a month. We'll give them a treat other than bugs, so it was shrimp today. So we brought up some shrimp. We had to cut it different sizes, not only for the holdbacks. We've got the adults, and we've got some babies that had just hatched. For the bearded dragons, they get fed daily. It's either bugs or a whole bunch of salad, stuff like that. So in this video, I'll actually show you, normally I feed them last. Once I've checked on everything, I go back down. They get things like spring mix, fruits, veggies, and we try to make it different every single day, whether that's the bugs, the veggies, everything we do, we try to mix up their diet. They won't normally eat as much as we give them, but we give them plenty of it. We put calcium dust on it. If any of them are going to be having eggs, they're not as hungry as normal. We'll do things like bee pollen, but you want to make sure that you're giving them all the proper things that they need. Unfortunately, since they eat daily, they also go to the bathroom daily. So as soon as we go upstairs, that's one of the things we look for. Every cage gets spot cleaned. We do a really good thorough cleaning once a week, but wherever they go to the bathroom every day, we go and we clean it. We go in there with F10 disinfectant. This way we know it's all clean and sanitized, and since they go to the bathroom so much, you want to make sure you're using an actual disinfectant, not just something like water. I then walk over to the adult Ackie Monitors. Actually, we're waiting on eggs from one of them, so we look at the lay boxes. Generally, if they're about to lay, they start digging, they start acting different, so once you see that kind of stuff, then you want to make sure you're marking down, or if you see them actually locking up, that's the best way to tell. But I know the one female and the signs that she shows when she's going to have eggs, she starts digging, she lays out in the basking spot a lot, so I know to look for that every day, so you want to make sure you're checking on that type of stuff. Since the baby Ackies are in a glass tank, just because they are so difficult to keep in a cage, they really like escaping just about any PVC enclosure I've ever built for them. Unfortunately, we do have to do glass, and because of that, we have to not only spray it down, sometimes up to 3 times a day to make sure it's enough humidity. We have to fill their waters really often and use a really high watt bulb to make sure they're getting that 150-degree hot spot. So we actually had to take everything out, and we clean it every couple of days because they do eat crickets at this young age, and you don't want a lot of crickets being left in the cage. They can actually bite the babies, hurt the babies. So we feed them, and then every 3 or 4 days when they are this small, we'll actually clean everything out. That way we can also check the growth of them and see how they're all doing. A lot of times I will check all the ball pythons. You want to make sure you are at least checking your females once or twice a day in the breeding season, so you don't miss something like an ovulation. You don't miss things like what side of the cage they're on. You want to make sure you're really looking at that. So I don't go through every single bin with you guys on camera. That would take forever, but you actually look at everyone. You want to kind of get a feel on how they're doing. I check them twice a day. I don't really touch them too much. It's more just a little peek to make sure I see how they're developing, see if they're getting close to laying eggs, or if I should keep pairing them. We've got some babies in a quarantine rack that'll actually be coming out soon, and they'll be going into those bins. We've got an unboxing video that'll be coming out soon also. We got some awesome snakes, some really high-end stuff. That way we can start putting some more genetics into the snakes in the future. But we go through all those things. Everything that's in quarantine that's separate, you always want to check them last, because for example, if one of them had mites and then you check them first and come into the rest of your reptiles, you're kind of ruining the whole point of quarantine. So anything in quarantine, make sure you always check them last. If you're going to feed everybody, again, make sure you're checking on them last. But I try to make sure we clean the entire reptile room when we're done, as long as we're not running out of time. But again, it's sometimes 4:30 in the morning, so I try my best to get as much done as possible before I have to actually get ready to go to work. As you can see, after I finished cleaning the Ackies, I came back up, and this is me feeding my wife's bearded dragons. Today they actually got strawberry, bell pepper, spring mix, and again, everything has calcium. Sometimes we put bee pollen on there too. It's really good for their digestive system. Then we go back around and we have the shrimp for everybody. Again, got to cut it different sizes for all the different babies. That's more of a once in a while thing. You don't want to give it to them all the time. They normally are going to eat things like dubias, crickets, but we like to give them shrimp and stuff every once in a while, and the baby Ackies love it. When we've actually got some stuff in the incubator, I like to give that a check. I do not check it every day. I try to check it every 4 to 5 days in the beginning, because they can go bad, because you can't really tell if they are fertile or not right in the beginning. Ball python eggs, they're going to have veins, and it's going to be very easy to tell normally if they're good or they're bad within the first week. Bearded dragons, it takes a little bit longer for their eggs to kind of develop those veins. Sometimes you see the little halo, but I like to check them a little more often, especially in the beginning, just to make sure none of those eggs are bad or rotten. And I want to point out, on some of the baby Ackies, you might actually see some color on them. We use non-toxic paint markers. That way we can actually tell the difference between the ones that are sold and who they're going to, because it's very difficult to tell those little guys apart. So we put just a little bit on them. It goes away within about the first week after putting it on there, but we do that once people have actually picked out a specific baby. That way we can guarantee people are getting the exact baby that they would like. Right there was a pretty standard day going around, pretty standard morning for me. Again, you didn't see a lot of me checking on, I check on the little boas, especially on days that I have fed. I do a lot of frozen thawed, and a lot of the boas I'll feed later at nighttime, and then I'll check in the morning. Anything they haven't eaten, I will then remove, but it gives them the nighttime. My Doomerils are a little bit shy when it comes to eating, so I do that for them. But I like to make sure I check everything. This is a normal day, so expect, let's say if you want to have, a larger collection. We only have a couple of baby Ackies right now, so this is pretty much a normal standard day. It takes about 45 minutes, sometimes an hour or so. If a lot of things have gone to the bathroom, you gotta clean. I like to hand feed the bearded dragons and the Ackies as often as possible, because it not only gets you a little bit of a bond with them, it shows, especially with the older Ackies. A lot of them I've gotten as full-grown adults, and they were not tamed. I do my best to work with them, show them I'm not a threat, stuff like that, but they're a lot better than they used to be. But I make sure to put the extra time in, because it ends up going a long way. If you really want your Ackies to produce eggs, you want them as comfortable as possible. And if they are afraid of people, and every time you come into the room they're stressed, that means they're not going to be breeding, they're not eating as much, so they're not going to be producing. So you want to make sure that they understand that you are at least not a threat. That way they don't spaz out every time you come in. It could help you in the long run to be able to produce more eggs. Let's say it was sometime in like August or September when we have the whole rack full of baby ball pythons. You have to remember, when you have things like that, when they're first hatched, before they shed, you have to spray them all. Make sure that they all stay not wet, but they all stay at least damp. You want to make sure you're checking every single one daily for water. If you have to spray them, you have to feed them a lot more often than a lot of the adults. Baby bearded dragons eat 3 to 4 times a day, so you have to make sure you're home or you have someone who could take care of them. It's very difficult to maintain all of this once you have a lot of babies. Babies need a lot more care a lot more often, so make sure you also plan this type of stuff around when you're going to have your babies. You can't really control a lot of animals when they're going to have their eggs. They just kind of do. You can expect to add at least another 45 minutes if you have, let's say, a full rack of baby ball pythons. If you got a couple clutches of bearded dragons, let's say I had 2 or 3 clutches of Ackies hatching at the same time, it takes quite a lot. So I would say each day I at least spend about an hour to an hour and a half minimum, and that's on a normal day. If I'm looking for eggs, taking care of all the extra babies, I'm deep cleaning the bearded dragons, I'm hand feeding all the animals, you could spend 2, 3, or even 4 hours a day. When I have to film up here, that takes out a lot more time, plus every other thing. Sometimes people want to come up and see the animals. Just all normal maintenance, care, deep cleaning. It's going to take a lot of time. It's very rewarding, and I love being up here. It's like my own personal zoo, but it does take a lot of work. You have to also remember, especially if things you're using are new, let's say you're using a new type of cage or a new type of rack, or you're moving its location, you're changing its heat tape, all that kind of stuff is going to end up needing you to kind of tinker with it. Things aren't just going to be perfect. You have to constantly be checking the temperature. You have to be checking the hot spot, your humidity, all that kind of stuff. Throughout the seasons, all that stuff's going to change. So make sure you expect to spend a lot of time. These aren't an animal that you're just going to feed once a week and then you're not going to look at them for another week. If you want to have high quality animals and you're going to be putting a lot of money into these, make sure you're taking care of them properly and they're all set up and they're happy and healthy. But that's it for this video. If you guys have any questions, you can put them in the comments below. If you haven't already, please subscribe. We do videos every single Wednesday, and we'll see you next Wednesday.